Welcome to Season 3 of Soul Spark. These episodes are brain snacks, brief bite-sized reflections from my personal journey, designed to be digested in just a few minutes. I want to keep things real here, which means these recordings, much like life itself, are perfectly imperfect. You might hear a pigeon outside my window, a scooter passing by, or me simply stumbling over a word. I'm not here to tell you how to live or what to do. I'm just here to share my unpolished stories and the questions I've wrestled with along the way. My hope is that by sharing what's moved me, I might just spark something in your soul today. Let's dive in. The strength of the bamboo. Let's talk about what it actually means to be strong. For most of my life, I thought strength meant being completely unbreakable. I thought it meant pushing through pain, ignoring limits, and forcing my body and mind to do exactly what my ego demanded. We are taught to be like massive oak tree, solid, rigid, and refusing to move, no matter how hard the wind blows against us. In March 2025, the definition of strength was put to the ultimate test. I was in Rotterdam competing in a Hyrox fitness race. If you've ever seen one of those events, you know the atmosphere. It's loud, it's intense, and it's all about pushing your physical limits to the absolute maximum. You're running, pushing sleds, and carrying heavy weights. But I wasn't just carrying the physical weights on the course, I was also carrying the reality of my own healing body. Just 8 weeks earlier, I had undergone surgery for an inguinal hernia. It was a fresh vulnerability in my core that demanded absolute respect and careful attention. In the past, the old Dennis would have handled this completely different. My ego would have screamed at me to ignore the warning signs and would have told me that modifying a movement wasn't a sign of weakness and that the true athletes just bite down and push through the pain. And if my core eventually gave out, I would have been furious at my body for failing me. But on that day in Rotterdam, standing in the middle of all that noise and adrenaline, just 2 months out of the surgery, I made a different choice. I thought about the difference between the oak tree and the bamboo. When a massive storm hits, the rigid oak tree fights the wind with everything it has. But it's because it completely refuses to bend, it eventually snaps right in half. The bamboo, on the other hand, doesn't fight the storm. It bows. It bends all the way down to the ground. It works with the pressures of the wind. And when the storm finally passes, the bamboo just bounces right back up, completely unbroken. During that race, I decided to be the bamboo. When I felt the tension in my healing core, I didn't ignore it. I didn't panic. I just adjusted. I changed my posture, I modified my pace, and I worked with the limitations instead of fighting against it. It was an incredible, humbling experience. Modifying your movements when everyone around you is going at maximum speed requires a completely different kind of bravery. It requires you to put your ego aside and actually listen to the whispers, warnings of your own body. I finished the race, but the real victory wasn't crossing the finish line or looking at the time on the clock. The real victory was realizing that true strength is not about invulnerability. True strength is having the flexibility to adapt. When you stop treating your injuries or your limitations as enemies and start treating them as guides, you stop breaking yourself. You realize that bending is not failing. Bending is exactly how you survive the storm. So, I want to ask you, where in your life are you acting like a rigid oak, fighting a pressure that is eventually going to break you? What if the physical or emotional limitations you're fighting right now is just asking you to change your posture? What if you gave yourself permission today to simply bend with the wind? Trust that you will bounce back when the storm is over. I hope I sparked your soul today. Thank you for sharing this perfectly imperfect space with me today. As you step back into the rush of your world, remember that you don't need to have it all figured out, and you certainly don't need to perform for anyone. Sometimes just sitting with the messy questions is exactly where you need to be. May this brain snack offer you a deep breath and a moment of stillness in the noise. And remember, Embrace the spark.